For the last 7 years, I've been running a retail shop for my clothing brand, and it's something that I've grown to love. But like all relationships, it's not always sunshine. Sometimes it's a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs. But these situations not only allowed my brand to thrive, but it also gave me the ability to grow as a person. I've had to learn a lot about myself. I've learned a lot from interactions with people. I've gained a lot of friends, and I've also lost some along the way. But I just wanted to share my experiences of having a store and having a brand. So here are some of the lessons that I've learned, and hopefully it's helpful on your journey. My name is Russ. I run a clothing brand called Human Catalyst, and I'm based out of San Diego, California. I've had my brand for close to 11 years now, and 7 of those years I've had an actual retail location. Like most people, I started off online, and I would do a lot of vendor marketplaces, pop-up shops, and to be honest, a lot of late night gas station meetups that I'm not so sad about that I don't have to do anymore. When I went to transition from being just online only to having a retail operation, a lot of my preconceived thoughts were just completely way off. So I wanted to make this because maybe there's someone out there that's dreaming of having their own retail shop. One of the biggest lessons about having a retail store is you think that it's just going to be about selling clothes and good designs, people coming in, buying them, and you making money. It's a lot different than online sales because when you're online, you'll get an order, it has a name, and you don't know the face that goes with it. But when you have a physical store, you actually have the opportunity to say thank you, meet them, and it's a much different experience to meet face to face. The reality of having a retail shop is that it's a lot like fishing. I always tell people sometimes you may have the right bait, you may have the right equipment, but when you set up shop and you drop your line out into the sea, sometimes it seems like there's no fish that exists. Like you just don't get people walking in and buying things. And there's numerous reasons why that might be. As you all know, we experienced something 4 years ago that changed the retail market completely. Not just boutiques and small niche shops, but big box stores that have been around for the last 50 years. They're little by little disappearing. I think a lot of it has to do with just the change in economy, but also the change in people's mindsets. There was a time when it was so important to go to a shop and you wanted to meet people and talk to people, and going to a shop was a lot cooler and a lot more normal. I think during the pandemic, people had no choice but to order online. And when they did, they finally were able to realize that I can order this and it's okay. I can wait a couple days and nothing's gonna happen. And now, instead of going and find parking, trying to go to a store, I was able to just order it online and go do what I had to do, because I think people started to realize that they value time. So there's going to be days when you're at your shop and you're sitting there and you're watching people walk by, walking their dog, riding their bikes, and thinking to yourself, why do I even have this retail shop? And it's a thought that happens more often than not. To tell you the truth, I'm only open 1 day a week because Monday through Friday in my community, everybody was at work. I used to open up Monday through Friday sitting there thinking, why are there so many parking spaces? Why is no one out? And I realized that most people are in the rat race. They're on the freeways trying to get to work. After work, they're just trying to get home. They're stuck in traffic. They want to get a bite to eat, maybe go to the gym, maybe run to the grocery store, something like that. The last thing they're thinking about is, I really need this t-shirt right now. I mean, there's people like that, but they're very few and far between. As special as it is to make these relationships with people, you just come to realize there's a certain point when people are going to age out of your brand, or they move on to something different, or maybe they actually physically move and they're no longer within your community. But it hits kind of hard because these customers, these repeat customers, ultimately become somewhat like some kind of friend that you always see. And you come to realize that just times change, people change, and sometimes people have to move on. Even for myself, I don't wear things that I used to wear 10 years ago. And that's just a part of life. And it's a part of us as brand owners to either adapt or be able to get thicker skin and maybe, just protect yourself a little bit and just understand it's just part of the game. But losing customers is always hard. It hurts. One of the biggest reality checks too is that when you decide to open a retail store, that's the minute that you become a retail worker. There's nothing wrong with being a retail worker. There's gonna be days there's nothing to do. You can only clean so much, fold so much, and it starts to wear you down. Unless you're in a booming place where, there's customers left and right. And if that's your case, then that's awesome. But for me, I'm in a historic district. There's a lot of breweries. There's a lot of business people just running in and out. It's not necessarily a place of just a constant stream of customers left and right. I don't think people give retail workers enough credit. It's a tough job. And then you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I'm just going to hire people. And the reality of that is if you do everything legit and you do it the right way, it's expensive to hire people. It's expensive to take care of the insurance and take care of all the necessary business things to actually employ someone, let alone be able to bring in enough sales to be able to afford them. I think another hard part of having a store is you need to make the decision for your brand. Are you a predominantly online business, or are you trying to scale on a local level? Because the demographic online might be completely different than your demographic in your actual community. In a dream scenario, all the people in your community would mess with you the same way online people do. But the simple fact is that we all have different tastes, and not all people are going to get what you're doing. They're not going to appreciate what your business is and what you're about. And occasionally you're going to get people coming inside. They want to hear your story and they decide if they want to buy something. Of course, you're going to take it because they're your customers, but they might not be the people that you're marketing to. They might just be people that want to support a great local business. And I think that's something that you really need to think about, because it can start to cloud your vision when you start basing things on your community needs versus what you're trying to do with your business on a global level. But it's easy to kind of get misguided and start doing things you don't necessarily need to do. For example, sometimes I get people like, why don't you make tank tops? Why don't you make dresses? Just random things. You start to think to yourself, man, a lot of people keep on asking for that. Is that part of your brand ethos to make those things? Or are you just trying to satisfy people's needs on a community level? I think that's just one of the realities that you got to know what you're about and who you're marketing to. If I were to do it all over again, would I go the route of retail? I think that's a really tough question because so much has changed over the last few years. The people are just different on how they operate. I think you could be highly successful online only, but I still think it's important. Go do those pop-up shops. Go shake hands with people in your community. Build up some steam on a local level. You don't necessarily need a brick and mortar. When you have a retail store, you're hoping people come in. But when you go and pop up at a vendor marketplace or something like that, you're going to the people and the crowd is already there. You got to ask yourself, what aligns with your goals? Is a retail shop even necessary? The reality, as far as on a financial basis, online really is where it's at, and having a retail store is it's a blessing. It's an advantage to have that as another piece in your toolbox, another place to shoot pictures, give your brand some credibility, give the buyers some credibility. But is it necessary? A lot of times I ask myself the same thing. So I don't know if this is helpful to any of you. This is just some of the stuff that I think about on the daily with my brand, and I hope that if you're thinking of having a store or you're getting frustrated with the way you're operating, maybe by me sharing is able to give you a little insight and help make the decision of what you should do. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe.